Hello, this is Skylit Lake reading When the Night Falls, the Mobs Rise by Girl Anna. Chapter 7. Where is my friend, the Smiley? The saying goes, when the night falls, the mobs rise, so using the dawn as their cover would grant them the element of surprise. They'd spent the night planning and arranging themselves instead. With earphone jack in the system, we've learned 3 things. 1. They've set traps to lure us in the hopes of separating us. 2. They have guards all over the place, and the places where security is the strongest, they seem to have less men. 3. Stain has not left the area of one of the floors that is heavily protected. Tomura informs everyone in the briefing room once they've suited up with their weapons strapped to them and guns on their side. Deku focuses himself on cleaning his bat as he listens to their plan take form. So, Stain is not leaving his prisoner. Darby comments the obvious. He's Tomura's second in command. Of course, he'd get involved knowing that both his friend and brother would take in this. He won't be the only one guarding Bakugo though, not if they're using him as bait. Sarah adds and Suyu hums. Overhaul will likely be there too. He will have to regain his honor after losing Eri. In that case, we know who we're up against. Kiri states, crossing his arms, and Deku stands. They want us to split up, so we will, but we'll make sure they split away from their posts as well. The room turns to him aghast, while Tomura chuckles. Playing bait? Deku shakes his head darkly. Sure, let's call it that. Then I'll go with you. I'll never hear the end of it if someone doesn't give you backup, Tomura says with a sense of finality, and Ochako grins. Good, that settles that. They had 3 teams, each with their own mission, and that's as far as the plan went. Group A, locate Katsuki in the building and get him out. That would be Dynamite's team. Group B, go ahead of Group A and take anyone out that got in the way of their mission. That will be Deku's team. Group C, bait to get Stain and Overhaul away from the positions, which would leave Tomura and Deku to take them on with Darby at his boss's side. Deku held his baseball bat fiercely as he laid it to rest somewhat above him on his shoulder as he made their way to the large SUVs. Look, Zuku! Eri ran out to greet him before they got to the garage, and everyone stopped to watch the 6-year-old embrace the mob boss that put his weapon down for her. What you got there? He asks as she smiled unfazed by all the gear and guns. She held a roughly made pink creation, put it on to show him. A balaclava. See? Now we're matching. She points at the one he's sporting around his neck, and he chuckles. I'm sure you'll grow into it. She nods and smiles, hopefully, and it softens his heart. Stay here and be good to Tenya-chan. She nods in promise, and he kisses her grey hair before standing up and taking his bat back. We're off. Each team arrived in separate SUVs at separate points and went the rest of the way on foot. They couldn't risk looking suspicious coming up to that manor in a convoy of cars. The only team that could, in fact, arrived blatantly by car was the bait. So Deku laughed maniacally as they drove straight into the big fancy gates, all the way to the front door, breaking through that as well, and then only hopping out of the car when they were in the entrance hall. Despite the category of groups, Group C was the first to enter. The guards were ready for him as he lifted a gun in one hand and a baseball bat in the other. Deku grins from ear to ear as the guards scramble. Let's play. Katsuki is snapped awake by the boss's metallic hand, reopening the wound in his mouth, making him spit blood. What the fuck? He started croaking in complaint, only to be gagged again. The bastard wasn't even looking at him anymore as the psychopath came running in again. They're here? He sounded ecstatic, and Katsuki shivers somewhat at the voice in fear. That bastard isn't coming for him. The bastard growls and the psychopath smiles with glee. Then I'll go to him. He simply decides, bringing out the twin katanas that they've been threatening to decapitate Katsuki with. It takes a moment for his brain to connect to the information shared, and he holds in his thoughts. Deku's here, and he's not coming for Katsuki. You watch the psychopath leave questioningly and stays quiet as the bastard seems to get more and more annoyed. That fucking brat had one job to do. Take the bake. The fuck is he doing staying at the entrance for? He huffs, growls only for the answer to come through by the sudden slamming of doors and the quick knockout maneuvers of one Uraka Ochako. Mina rushes to ungag him, and Katsuki chuckles in relief. You bastards took your time. Sorry, boss, comes the immediate reply. Sarah and Denki sucks in breaths at the mess that had been made of his chest, and Katsuki felt the aura of concern fill the room. It outright pisses him off. Don't just fucking stand there, untie me, he yells at them, and Kiri is quick to follow through on the orders. Katsuki rubs at his raw wrists and cracks his back for being tied to that chair for fuck knows how long. Now, where's Deku? He growls, and everyone hitches their breath. Kiri is the only one that gathers the balls to answer. You're not going to him. We're taking you out of here. If you go anywhere near him in that state, he'll lose all sense of sanity. His stomach drops at the words, and one look at Ochako tells him all he needs to. Fuck. Izuku suddenly starts sobbing as he drops his weapon on one of the bodies below, but doesn't even notice. His eyes never leave Katsuki's. I am sorry, Kachan. I'm so sorry. I never wanted you to see me like this. Covered in blood. Katsuki interrupts him, and Izuku looks down at his hand sheepishly. It's not mine. Katsuki sighs. You think that makes me love you less? At that, Izuku looks back up and meets his eyes. You don't? Katsuki takes each step forward to him until he's carefully holding the parts of Izuku's cheek without drying blood. I think you're fucking scary, but also fucking incredible. Fight to win, right? Izuku chuckles. And win to save. Katsuki doesn't wait a second, pushing past his team and Deku's. Taking weapons from bodies he comes across and runs through the large manor towards pained sounds and crunching bodies that meet Deku's bat. Kiri is hot on his heels, and when Katsuki staggers at the sight of his greenette in a fight with that psychopath, he grabs hold of him tightly. You can't go there, Katz. He needs all his focus right now, and you'll only make him lose control. Kiri hisses at him, and Katsuki lets himself be held back because he knows the redhead is right. Tomura and Darby are with him down there. He'll be alright. We need to get out of here, Mina urges them, and Katsuki spares one more glance at his blood-covered boyfriend before shrugging Kiri off him. He better come home in one piece or we'll be right back here again for a fucking massacre. Katsuki promises them, and no one protests. Izuku felt some very familiar eyes looking down at him from above, yet the moment he had some time to look, all he found was a pair of golden eyes looking rather vengeful. Izuku holds back relaxed as he looks up at the owner of the golden eyes properly. Chisaki Kai, I've always wondered what made you turn away from your adoptive father within the Yakuza, only to create your own faction and become the lapdog for the mayor. Tomura rests on the landing of the staircase beside him, Stain lying in a bloody mess by their feet. Twin katanas left scattered around the room from where they lost to Deku's crazy swings. Maybe some unresolved daddy issues, Tomura gripes, and Deku snorts. Do you think the mayor would mind that his new toy is kinda broken? Deku asks as a foreign thought, and Tomura laughs. Nah, it's not like it's got any use for him now. He'll probably be glad we took him off his hands. Deku looks right at the golden eyes above as he smiles. That would be 2 assets of his. The overall has let it slip through his fingers. How will he react to that? Overhaul's eyes widen with sudden fear that multiplies as Tomura replies to him. I was taught that failures made for useless efforts. He doesn't like anything useless. Both of them fall into a fit of laughter that is ruined by a groan from Stain below them. Alright, Deku mutters, bending down to face Stain as he nudges the limp head. Don't worry, someone is coming to get you. It seems you have quite powerful enemies. They instructed me to keep you barely breathing. I'd wish I was dead with what you did to him, Deku mutters, and Deku lights up. That's what I was going for. Tomura chuckles roughly, and Overhaul keeps them from atop the stairs. He doesn't even spare a glance of acknowledgement to all the fallen guards they've murdered. Darby strolls back in from outside. Blood he spilled now dried on him. No longer out of breath from the exertion of the fight, but instead fighting a proud grin on his lips. Their hero. Not even a minute goes by before the famed assassin duo come through the barged open door. The blonde lets out a wolf whistle, and Deku grins proudly as he uses his bat to push Stain's head towards them. As promised, the darker one looks away and coughs into his fist at the bloodied sight. Deku frowns. Oh, sorry for the mess. I wouldn't have expected less from the rabid killer, the blonde one says in an amused way, and Deku scowls at the name and clicks his tongue. It's a name he has gotten after one of the first fights he got involved in where his temper got let loose. The name was whispered through the neighborhood schools and eventually died down when dynamite rose up and they could beat anyone that uttered the name. The use of rapid or sometimes spoken as rabbit, after his quick as bunny reflexes. It was a joke of a name to Izuku, and he hated being referred to by it, though in cases where the scene does look like it came from a rabid creature, he can understand the link. Do you want him or not? Because I can still kill him, Deku says he in a bored tone, and the blonde chuckles darkly and placates his hands. Okay, we'll take him. Thanks, the darker one adds as the blonde spares a look at Darby. I like him, he tells him, gesturing his head somewhat back at Deku, and the greenette scowls at Darby laughs. Then I'll make sure he has your details if he needs them. In that case, let me give you some friendly advice. The blonde smiles at Deku with something hidden underneath. That golden raven looking down at us? He had more than one reason for wanting to be part of Eri's life, the same way you do. Tomura turns abruptly to them both and then makes eye contact with a thug that is indeed still looking down at them. Deku didn't even need to ask, as the shock is likely clearly painted on his face. We work in the shadows. It is where we strive. Therefore, we get to see the secrets people hide there. We didn't get to see or hear this little secret, but we heard it from one who learned it himself, the blonde adds, and Deku follows his brother's eyes up to once again make contact with the golden eyes, dilated and understanding. How ironic to think that out of all of us, Eri, sweet little Eri, is the one to have inherited his genes in her appearance. Tomura chuckles, but ultimately places a strong hand on his shoulder. You're exhausted. Time to get you home, brother. Izuku sucks in a breath at the information he just confirmed to the whole room and everyone in it. The blonde assassin simply smiles warmer at him before glancing over to Dabai, who's been staying rather quiet through the whole ordeal. I'll help you carry the heavyweight out, he tells the blonde, and the small assassin rolls his eyes and walks out first. Izuku watches as the blonde bows a dramatic goodbye before taking one of Stain's legs and simply starts to drag the body out. Darby springs to action a second later to get Stain's arms and carry him, reprimanding the assassin for his careless behavior. Go home. I'll take care of our new half-brother. Tomura pushes him out of the door, where Izuku finds Shoto still waiting for him, nearly asleep against a pillar. Go kiss your lover, he adds, and Izuku smiles as Shoto's eyes blink open tightly before registering him. Ready to go home? He grumbles sleepily, and Izuku confirms, taking his bat in hand and dragging it up behind him. Let's go. Katsuki would normally be ashamed to say that he fell asleep the moment his head hit the pillow, but he'd been tortured for fuck knows how long, and he was exhausted. He likely made it a lot easier for the doctor his team brought to treat him by being asleep, since he woke up with bandages that weren't there when he fell asleep. He's asleep. The doctor treated all his wounds and bandaged him up. He's treated Katsuki before and has assured us that none of his wounds are infected and he'll heal just fine. Katsuki registers Mina's voice outside his door, speaking softly as not to wake him up. Okay. A meek answer comes, and Katsuki shoots up in his bed at the voice. He winces as he pulls at the wounds on his chest, but still gets up out of his bed. A body slumps against his door and Katsuki stops himself from opening it. I won't make you go home, but if you're gonna wait here, please go take a shower. You're covered in blood. Mina chastises him, and Katsuki can only smile to the tone. I don't care. I just want to make sure he's okay, comes Izuku's meek reply. That has Katsuki finally opening the door, and Izuku falling back at his feet. Hey nerd. Katsuki smiles softly down at him as Izuku's eyes widen with emotions, and Mina scoffs before walking away. Katsuki can sense Izuku's tears coming, so he kneels down to brush away the sweat-filled curls out of his eyes. You look worse off than me, Katsuki jokes as he takes his boyfriend in. I don't care as long as you're okay, he repeats the words he told Mina, and Katsuki scowls. Well, I care. I'm clearly fine, so go take a shower. He doesn't really. It wouldn't matter to him if Izuku was bathed in blood. He would still want to kiss the man crazy. But the nerd needs to take better care of himself. Izuku pouts, but stands up slowly and walks further into Katsuki's room. As he heads for the blonde's shower, he stops at the bathroom door and turns to him. Are you not coming? He asks in a sad tone. Katsuki closes the door in answer and locks it before walking over to him and hugging him fiercely. Yeah, baby, I'm here. That's all it takes for Izuku's tears to come flowing down as he sobs in Katsuki's arms. Normally, Katsuki would take care of Izuku when he cries before opening himself up in the same way for the greenette to return the favor. But they've been through too much in the last hours that Katsuki can't hold it in as he holds his trembling boyfriend. The tears stream down his own face, and Izuku holds him tightly in return as they both cry in each other's arms. Katsuki washed all the blood of Izuku as the greenette carefully traced all of Katsuki's wounds that would no doubt scar over. The kisses that came after were soft and careful, as if they were both scared the other would disappear if they got too greedy. When they made it into bed, Katsuki held Izuku in his arms, while Izuku clutched onto him like a koala. Katsuki knew that he'd been waking up to drool on his chest, but couldn't care less. He was home. Kai glared back at the girl that Shigaraki had ordered to keep an eye on him. Her eyes are narrowed in on him personally as she plays with a knife in her hand, twirling it like a professional doing tricks kids do with pencils. He knew when he'd researched his parentage that his biological father had taken in a boy to be his successor. There was no blood between them, yet his father took the boy in. Yet that same man was willing to disregard any other blood-related child. Kai could understand that. Who would want an illegitimate bastard being their successor? A child from a woman that meant nothing to the Lord of the Underground, only produced by a woman who wasn't proficient enough in keeping her legs closed. Kai never discovered who his birth mother was. She simply left him on the doorsteps of the Yakuza, thinking that in that home he would be safer than her. Kai left the safety of that home the moment he discovered whom his blood came from. If he couldn't be his father's successor, he'd get close as he could to the man instead. Then, of course, the brat of a successor ran away, and Kai was given new orders and placed by his father's side. He was happy that way. Until a blood-related child was dropped on the doorstep and his father took her in. She would be his successor, not the man that had been serving him without complaint for years. Himiko, that's enough, Shigaraki tells her as he steps through the door, and she huffs, but leaves as she is told to. As I'm sure you know, unlike Izuku, I don't actually have any blood relation to All For One. Nevertheless, I consider him my brother, since I was raised by the man who Izuku inherited his temper and bloodlust from. Kai nods. He'd seen it in those crazed green eyes, the same look he'd seen countless times on the mare. It was nearly identical. It is what made him stop in his pursuit to follow through on his commands and just watch as the greenette massacred all the guards belonging to the man that stole his lover. Kai will admit that he has felt anger like that before, yet he never acted on it. He doesn't like the mess it would make. Since you know this, you also know that if our father gets a hand on you, your head will go rolling. Kai glares at the man for stating the obvious. Yet Shigaraki only stares back blankly. After a couple of minutes, the point is clear. If he leaves now, they'll sell him out. What do you want? Kai eventually concedes, and Shigaraki smiles. Glad you asked. He turns around as he moves to sit at his desk dramatically, making Kai roll his eyes. We want to overthrow the Lord of the Underground. Kai scoffs at the declaration. And have who take over? The three of us. You, me, and Deku. It's fitting, don't you think? The runaway successor, the crazed illegitimate son, and the former lackey. Shigaraki paints the picture, and Kai will admit, it did sound ironically satisfying. Either one of them had the crew of their own that would back them with more loyalty than anyone serving All For One. That man rules with fear. They'd rule with respect. Kai smiles as the idea becomes brighter in his mind. I guess that would mean I would have to learn your rules. Shigaraki smiles. The rules are simple, brother. Don't double-cross us. Kai wouldn't dare. He worked hard to be considered a successor. If he couldn't get a power by succession, he'll fight for it. Hey guys, I hope you enjoyed this video. This is chapter 7 of this series. Please give kudos to Ghost Girl Anna for such a lovely series so far. We've got 2 more chapters left. It's a relatively short fake. When I was initially reading it, I only got up to chapter 6. So from here on, for me, it's like new content. But either way, the display of Izuku's just violence was not shocking. It was alluded to quite a bit, but also felt underwhelming. Yeah, it felt underwhelming because I guess it was more like just a boar going on a rampage instead of the surgical cold position of a snake killing its prey. It's a different kind of rapidness, because Katsuki, I would imagine, would go into a massacre, but he would do it in a level of precision that would be haunting. Izuku would go in and obviously fucking make the place a pool with blood, because the amount of blood he would get. But either way, how did you guys like the plot twist of Kai being part of this very confusing family tree? Because that's what it is. It's like, I swear every other person is related to All For One. He really gets around despite, I guess, yeah, despite his old age. Because I remember in the Fan of Hearts shorts, he looked very like old and crinkly. So I'm just thinking, how young is he? Because he can't be that. He can't be that young to, have multiple affairs, raise the kids to certain ages, and yeah, blah blah blah. Either way, I'll see you guys next time. Bye!